We dive deep into the numbers here on today's Locked On Vols. What is Tennessee losing in Nico Iamaleava that you can't get in Joey Aguilar? Not an awful lot. Again, it's your Tuesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Isaiah Campbell. Happy to have you guys along for the ride here today. I'm a team member over at VolQuest.com and, of course, your host of Locked On Vols. Each and every single morning when you wake up, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. Everydayers, thanks so much for being here. We'll get into your mailbag questions in segment number 3. And today's episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Check it all out over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Today's show, we're going to dive deep. We're going to dive down deep into the numbers. Joey Aguilar versus Nico Iamaleava. I continue to say throughout this offseason that if Tennessee does this, just like it did last year, it kind of seems weird to say, but it doesn't necessarily matter who's at quarterback, right? And I'm going to show my work on that. We're going to dive down deep into the numbers. Passes 20 yards down the field, intermediate, completion percentage, all that and more coming up here in segment number 1. Tennessee with Joey Aguilar versus Tennessee with Nico Iamaleava in 2024. Impact freshmen who are going to make an impact. We're going to have a role in this team in segment number 2. And then, of course, your mailbag questions again in segment number 3. All right, so let's look down into the numbers of Joey Aguilar while he was at Appalachian State. And we know Nico's numbers. We'll go over those again here in a moment. But Joey Aguilar, of course, had a phenomenal year in 2023, his first year in the Sun Belt. He spent 2 years in junior college. That was his breakout year, 3,757 yards, 3,757 passing yards, completing 63% of his passes. He threw for 33 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, had a QB rating of 151.6. Really good year for the first-year player out of junior college. Again, Joey Aguilar in 2023. Stats went down a little bit in 2024. I don't think the team was as good. I think he was asked to do a whole lot more. I think he was forcing some things at times. And people I've spoken to, I'm not going to act like I watched every single Appalachian State game because I did not. But his stats did go down. 23 touchdowns. That went down by 10 total. His interception total went up by 4 from 10 to 14. 23 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, QB rating of 132.9, completed only 55% of his passes, and threw for 3,003 yards. So again, still threw for over 3,000 yards, barely, and what is considered a down year. Now, you look at what Nico Iamaleava did in his first year starting quarterback at Tennessee. And again, you guys know my stance on Nico. I think the potential still through the roof. I think he can be a very, very good football player. I'm not trying to dunk on a guy that's not here anymore, but it is what it is. Tennessee wrote a good run game and a solid defense at the college football playoffs last year. Nico, in his 1 year as a starting quarterback at the University of Tennessee, he threw for 2,616 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, not a lot of picks, okay? 63.8% completion, and 2,616 yards. A quarterback rating of 145.3, as we pointed out. So, let's look at a little bit deeper into the numbers, shall we? Let's go to deep passes, 20 yards or more down the field. This is Joey Aguilar in 2024, again, in what was considered a down year. Passes 20 yards or more down the field. He attempted 77 such passes. Nico Iamaleava attempted 50. So he attempted 27 more passes. He completed 28. He was 28 of 77 for a 36.4 completion percentage on passes 20 yards down the field or more. Remember, passes 20 yards down the field or more considered deep passes. The completion percentage are going to be a lot lower compared to those that are right around the line of scrimmage or intermediate. So again, 20 yards or more down the field, Joey Aguilar completed 28 of 77 for 1,033 yards, 36.4 completion percentage. Nico Iamaleava completed 16 of 50, 32%, okay? And he had 8 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, whereas Joey Aguilar had 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 1,033 yards, only 630 yards for Nico Iamaleava. Okay, so the deep ball advantage and, obviously more opportunities as well to Joey Aguilar. passes, intermediate passes. This is kind of where I think Joey Aguilar struggled a bit throughout his time. In 2024, the last football season, in what is considered a quote-unquote down year for Joey Aguilar, he completed 65 of 119 of passes 10 to 19 yards down the field. Nico Iamaleava completed 50 of 93 of passes in that intermediate range. Joey Aguilar threw for 1,012 yards in such passes. Nico threw for 924 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Nico's numbers a whole lot better in this regard, 7 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. Joey Aguilar, short, 0 to 9 yards, 82 of 114, 711 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 picks. Nico Iamaleava, 98 of 125. So in passes 10 yards or less down the field, Nico attempted 125 such passes last year, where Joey Aguilar attempted 114. Nico threw for 2 touchdowns, no picks, 806 yards. And then passes behind the line of scrimmage, Nico threw for, he was 49 of 53. Joey Aguilar was 43 of 55. So again, that was kind of a down year. So again, the numbers, advantage deep ball to Joey Aguilar, right? But the numbers, they're not too different, I guess. Let's go back to 2023 when Joey Aguilar had his breakout season at Appalachian State. Okay? Deep balls, 20 yards or more down the field, 29 of 81, 35% completion, 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions for 951 yards. It's not bad, right? Pro Football Focus gave that a grade of 83.5. Intermediate, 10 to 19 yards. He was 85 of 133, completed 63.9% of his passes, 1,418 yards, 12 touchdowns, 7 picks. Again, the interceptions for Aguilar are coming in that intermediate range. Pro Football Focus still gave it a grade of 87.3. Short, 0 to 10 yards, 123 of 168, 1,076 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 pick. And then behind the line of scrimmage, 55 of 59, 292 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. So he almost threw for 1,000 yards in every category here. 951 yards on deep passes down the field, 20 yards or more. Over 1,400 yards in the intermediate. And just over 1,000 yards in the short 0 to 10 yards passing. That being Joey Aguilar in 2023 when he had his breakout season. So you're comparing the numbers there. Joey Aguilar again led the Sun Belt in quote-unquote big-time throws according to the metric of Pro Football Focus as well. So can Joey Aguilar do what Nico did a season ago? Can Joey Aguilar be better than what Nico Iamaleava was at Tennessee in 2024? Stan, the reason that you believe he certainly can be, he's more experienced. Again, he's going up a level. I recognize all that. I think Nico, his best football's in front of him, so everybody, myself included, expected a big step from Nico this year. Third year in the system, second year as a starting quarterback here at Tennessee with Josh Heupel again. Typically, you get better the more and more you do things. Certainly, if you have some of that unlocked potential, you got to tap it, right? But Nico is no longer here anymore. So you take a football team that made the college football playoffs last year by riding a good defense, which is still expected to be a top 10, 15 defense in the country this year. Tim Banks' defense should be good yet again. It's going to lead the way for Tennessee this year. You battle behind a pretty good run game where Josh Heupel, again, I say this all the time, it's probably the Locked On Vols stat of the show, right? Josh Heupel, since being at Tennessee, has had 2,500 plus rushing yards in all 4 seasons. That's never been done in program history. And they dang near ran for 3,000 yards a season ago on the ground, which would have been the most in modern day, program history. They were fantastic in running the football season ago. Yes, Dylan Sampson's not here. I recognize that, but it's the sustainability of that stat. It's the 2,500 plus all 4 years. So there's no reason for me to not believe that Deshaun Bishop, who got a lot of playing time last year, and Peyton Lewis, who got a lot of playing time last year, can't pick up right where Dylan Sampson left off and continue running the football with authority. So if you're going to have a good defense, you're going to have a good run game, why can't Joey Aguilar, which his stats in the deep ball was much better than Nico Iamaleava, why can't he duplicate what Nico did a season ago or take it a step further and just be even better? Again, I get the thought process from the national media, everybody outside of Knoxville that just sees Nico leaving and James Pierce and Dylan Sampson and replacing 4 starters on the offensive line and not having any wide receivers. I recognize all that. I hear you. But your strengths are your strengths. The strengths of last year's teams are going to be the strengths of this year's team. The quarterback play was not horrible, but it was not uplifting. So if Joey Aguilar can duplicate what Nico Iamaleava did in 2024, I think Tennessee is going to be a pretty good football team. Now, he has got to cut down on the turnovers. You know that. I know that. We talk about it all the time. We've looked at Josh Heupel's quarterbacks, and we did it on a show. I think it was Friday's show. Talking about Faison Brandon and Joe Milton and Nico and Hendon about how quarterbacks simply don't turn the football over in this offense. It helps. It is a quarterback-friendly offense in that regard. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it is a quarterback-friendly offense in that regard. So can Josh Heupel do his thing, be the quarterback whisperer for Joey Aguilar, cut down on some of those turnovers, and still get these productions that is either on par, if not a little bit better, than what Nico Iamaleava performed in 2024. I think this football team can certainly hit that over at 8.5, have 9 regular season wins, and who knows, maybe have a spot in the college football playoff. Again, you look down deep into the numbers, you see the stats, you go to ESPN.com, you type in a player, you see the stats. I like to go to Pro Football Focus. I like to see, okay, what percentage of his throws is he completing at passes 20 yards or more down the field, intermediate 10 to 19, short, behind the line of scrimmage, all that and more. And Joey Aguilar, advantage deep ball, something Tennessee's not had under Nico or Joe Milton the last 2 seasons. Maybe that can come back to the offense. I truly do believe this offense is going to be fine. I'm not saying leading the nation. I'm not saying that you're going to get all those explosive plays back like you had with Hendon Hooker in 2022 and 2021. But I think Tennessee's offense is going to be just fine. What say you? Would love to hear from you guys at _Cainer and at Locked On Vols. When we come back, impact freshmen. Which freshmen, true freshmen, are going to have an impact, a real impact, a role for this Tennessee football team this fall? We'll discuss when we return right here on Locked On Vols. Summer sports are in full swing. NBA playoffs, the finals, they are done. The Stanley Cup finals, they are done. So it's summer sports. It's baseball. It's futures for football. But right now, let's talk a little bit of baseball under the lights. Golf on the weekends as well. High-stakes soccer action. FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You already follow the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Or you can be getting sunburned at the beach, but also on the safe, secure, easy-to-use FanDuel app, you can be doing that from the pool or doing that from the river or from the beach yourself as well. I've been using FanDuel to track all my favorite matchups. The app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions that are always so much fun. Same game parlays as well. Again, you got a baseball game. You got these same game parlays. If you don't like one of the players that's listening there, you can substitute that player in for this player. It just makes it more engaging. It makes it more fun watching your team that you're already going to be watching that night anyway, right? So check it all out right now. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5, and you get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. I'm going to say that one more time. That's a pretty good deal, right? If you're new, bet just $5. Get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. No better deal than that. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, FanDuel.com/lockedon, FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today with FanDuel. What true freshman is going to have a big-time impact for Tennessee football this fall? There's a couple of gimmies in there, obviously, and we've kind of done this subject, this topic a little bit from different angles. But one of the favorite things fans are so engaged in fall camp and in spring practice that's already happened, the newcomers, the transfers, the newcomers, who's standing out, what can they bring to the table? It's exciting stuff, right? And so, which true freshmen are actually going to have play a big-time impact for Tennessee this fall? Well, number one's obviously going to be David Sanders. I'm not going in a list here. I've just got the commit list right here. I'm going to kind of go down it, but I'm not going like 1, 2, 3, 4, that type of thing. But if I was, it would be leading off with David Sanders as well. I mean, he's going to be your starting right tackle. It's not going to be a finished product day one. He's going to struggle at points and times, but the athletic ability, the potential that's there, he's getting after it as well. He's working hard. He's watching film. He's trying to be a sponge and collect all the information, all the knowledge as possible. He's doing a really good job this offseason. He's doing, with the investment made in him, he's preparing like he knows he knows the weight that's on him, right? And that's what you want to see. And so David Sanders is absolutely going to play a role for Tennessee. Probably going to be your starting right tackle with Larry Johnson transferring out. I mean, it's I mean, it's his job. I mean, it's his job for sure. And so David Sanders, where we would start the conversation. Isaiah Campbell, another 5-star commit for the class of 2025 for Tennessee. Again, talk about those defensive tackles. Not a whole lot of bodies there. So another guy I'll get to here in a moment, Ethan Utley, along with Isaiah Campbell, is going to play a big role. Now, I say big role, going to play a role. Will he get 20 snaps a game? Probably not. Will he get 7 to 10? Probably. Okay, what do you do with those 7 to 10 snaps? Can you perform at a high level to earn 15 or 16 snaps, to earn 20 to 25 snaps? He's going to be in the rotation. That being Isaiah Campbell has done a really, really good job coming in here and adapted to things in the spring. So David Sanders Jr., massive role. Isaiah Campbell, rotational piece on the defensive line that will play. Deson Brain, third highest rated commit for Tennessee in this class. Right now, I don't see him being a big factor this fall. Doesn't mean he's a bad player. Certainly doesn't mean that he's not going to have a future here at Tennessee. But this fall, again, you have Miles Kitselman, you have Ethan Davis, you have Cole Harrison, who's been in the system a little bit. Jack Van Dorselaer, I think, is more ready now than Deson Brain, and plus he had a big spring game, and you can't take spring games into account. I understand that. But I don't think Deson Brain is going to play a big role for Tennessee this year, but I think he's going to be really, really good. Kind of like one of those James Pierce, Joshua Joseph situations. Joseph's got to the field first, but then James Pierce came along, and he was really, really good. I can kind of see that happening here. Marion Dye, I don't know. He was injured all spring, so he really hasn't gotten his toes wet in terms of the Tennessee defense at all. That 5-tech, that traditional defensive end spot. I mean, he's already at about 270 right now, Marion Dye. He's got to get out there and practice more before we know if he's going to play any type of role this year. But right now, I'd probably say he is not in the rotation. Travis Smith, will he be in the true rotation? I don't know at wide receiver. But will he play? Yeah, because you have 7 scholarship wide receivers. Travis Smith has had a really, really good spring. He's had a good summer so far. There's people talking about him. There's a little bit of buzz. I'll get to another freshman wide receiver here in a moment. But Travis Smith's going to play a little bit because, again, the numbers are so thin at wide receiver. And so I'm excited to see that. Travis Smith will certainly log some snaps this year. Christian Gass, another one of those freshmen that were injured. A couple of those freshmen that were injured and didn't really do much in spring ball. Christian Gass, probably at the Leo position, right? I mean, there's some versatility there if he can play linebacker or Leo. But he didn't do hardly any spring ball. So, right now I think he's on the outside looking in. George McIntyre. Tennessee's in the quarterback competition. Everybody wants to call it a 3-man competition between Jake Merklinger, Joey Aguilar, and George McIntyre. I'm not ready to call it a 3-man battle because I don't believe it's a 3-man battle. I don't. Doesn't mean George McIntyre is not good. Doesn't mean George McIntyre won't play potentially. But I think right now it's Jake Merklinger, who doesn't have hardly any experience at all, but experience in the system. And then, of course, Joey Aguilar, who's got tons of experience, just no experience at this level or in the system. But George McIntyre, I think, is going to be a pretty good player. I like the fact that he had 4 different offenses in high school, a bunch of different coaches, ran them pretty well, and now he's coming on. He got better and better every single day in spring ball. But George McIntyre, his role in 2024 or 2025 this fall, gosh, I'm all over the place. I don't think it's going to be big because I don't think that he's going to be the starting quarterback. Nick Moore, Jefferson County, what's up? I don't think he'll be in the rotation this year, but that's fine. Red shirts, strength and conditioning, nutrition, continue to develop. Left-handed center, snapping the football with the left hand. You don't see that every day. But Nick Moore, I don't see him being in the rotation this fall on the offensive line. Jaden Harmon, linebacker's interesting. We'll get to Jaden Perlotti here in a moment as well. Jaden Harmon and Jaden Perlotti both were injured in spring, so they didn't really do anything. Linebacker's interesting because I think there's a lot of talent there. But right now, what do you know about the depth? Because so many guys were out in spring. You'll get Arian Carter back, of course. But what you know about Arian Carter. You know about Jeremiah Thielander, strengths, weaknesses, and all that. You saw a little bit of Edwin Spillman. He's going to play a ton. Jordan Burns, he was injured all last year, but he had a pretty good spring. They like him. Can you count on Jaden Harmon and Jaden Perlotti to spell you a little bit? Can they be in that rotation? Of the two, I think it'll be Jaden Harmon. But again, he missed all spring, so he's got to prove that in fall camp. Interesting piece right there. Of course, special teams likely as well. Going back to Isaiah Campbell, Ethan Utley here. Ethan Utley's going to play. Big role, no. Rotational piece, yes, on the defensive line. He had a very, very good spring. Rodarius Jackson, just like Travis Smith. Numbers are small at wide receiver. I think Rodarius Jackson had a better spring than Travis Smith. I'll say Travis Hunter, then Travis Smith. Rodarius Jackson had a very, very good spring. His athletic ability, his adapting to the college game, to the playbook, to the scheme, I think he impressed a whole lot of people. So I'm excited to see these two freshmen, Travis Smith and, of course, Rodarius Jackson, play a little bit because, again, numbers are so small. Jaden Lofton, much like Marion Dye, injured in spring ball, didn't do an awful lot. Jaden Lofton, I believe, is more of the Leo spot, 6'4", 235 right now. But again, I think he's not going to be a part of the rotation. Jack Van Dorselaer is a little interesting. Again, where's Cole Harrison? That's my question. You're starting two at tight end are Miles Kidsom and Ethan Davis. Who's your number 3? Who's that number 3 that allows Tennessee to go 12 personnel if needed? Is it Cole Harrison or is it Jack Van Dorselaer? Jack Van Dorselaer had a pretty good spring. Really good spring. Yes, he caught 3 touchdowns in the orange and white game, but let's not discredit him, but let's not take that into account because the orange and white game, a little all over the place, right? The game, it's more of a glorified practice that fans can see. I'm interested to see if Jack Van Dorselaer or Cole Harrison open up the season as the number 3 tight end. I think Van Dorselaer can have a say in that for sure. Trey Petite, interesting. Tennessee needs some depth pieces big time in the defensive backfield. We'll see what happens there. Special teams player, no doubt. Jaden Perlotti, much like Jaden Harmon. Healthy, where are you? What can you prove in spring? Or what can you prove in fall camp? I would kind of put him, again, we have to see him play because neither one of them practiced yet, but I would kind of put him behind Jaden Harmon right now. But again, that's premature. We'll see what they can do. Tennessee needs some linebackers to add some depth in a big-time way. Juan Morris, talented back, right? I think he's number 4 on the depth chart right now, so I don't think he's going to see a ton of action. But we'll see how many guys Darrell Sims wants to play. Star Thomas, what's his workload going to be? We know that Deshaun Bishop and Peyton Lewis are going to kind of lead the way. Star Thomas is right there, and then to be Juan Morris. I think he's got a big-time future. I just don't know how big of a piece of the pie he's going to get as a true freshman. Anthony Kadagmaro, redshirt guy, develop offensive lineman. That's kind of what I see with him. Brandon Ains, maybe some special teams, but we'll see. Maybe a red shirt as well, another linebacker. Timothy Merritt. Tennessee needs some depth in the defensive secondary, so we'll have to see if he can pick up off a good spring that he left off and carry that into fall camp. Justin Baker, true freshman running back. I believe he's destined for a red shirt this year. Dylan Lewis got a ton of run in spring. They're going to need him to be, a backup star, backup corner. Sidney Walton at safety, same for him. Ty Redmond, corner. Again, a lot of these freshman defensive backs kind of all jumbled here together. Charles House and Joakim Dotson, the last two that I'm going to highlight here, they were not here in spring, so ultimately they're behind the 8 ball. So I think Charles House probably destined for a red shirt this year. And then Joakim Dotson, probably not a red shirt because, again, only 7 scholarship wide receivers. I continue to say that, right? So Joakim Dotson, got to be ready to play. Got to be ready to play in a big way. So that's kind of how I see all these true freshmen this year for Tennessee football. A couple of the guys like David Sanders Jr., massive roles. Some other guys, probably just a special team. While some, a small group of these guys, probably just a red shirt. There's nothing wrong with a red shirt, especially in this day and age of the transfer portal as well. You save a year of eligibility to where if you don't want to use it here, you can transfer and go use it elsewhere. Again, red shirting has a weird stigma to it, but it is not a bad thing. Who is your favorite incoming true freshman that you're expecting to see ball out this year? Would love to hear from you guys at _Cainer and at Locked On Vols. We will answer your mailbag questions every dayers coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. All right, guys, mailbag question time, and we're going to start with a very impressive, clever handle here. It's Ben Dover, all right? He wants to know, what's holding Tennessee back from landing big-time recruits? It seems like all the other big schools are landing them left and right, but we're stuck holding the bucket. Tennessee's landed its fair share of big-time recruits, not in this cycle yet. Well, I mean, Faison's massive, okay, so there's one. But, again, I'll direct you to David Sanders Jr. I'll direct you to Isaiah Campbell. I'll direct you to Mike Matthews. I'll direct you to Nico Iamaleava. I'll direct you to David Hobbs. I'll direct you to James Pierce. So, again, those are all 5-star prospects from one outlet or another that Tennessee's reeled in. I don't think I'm missing any since Josh Heupel's been the head coach here at Tennessee, again, over the years. So, again, they've landed some big-time recruits. You're probably saying top 5 class, solidified a top 10 class, and I hear you. They need to start making some moves, for sure, in this year's class. And again, June official OVs are over, okay? And so now's the time. End of June, July, can you go on a little bit of a run here? Tennessee is in it, and some massive, massive big boy battles. You've got to land your share of big boy battles. Tristan Keys, Savion Hyder, those two names that come to mind, right? We'll see if Tennessee can land either one of those guys and some other. You need to get Braden Rouse. He needs to be top 100 linebacker. It's got to be in this class. Craig Tubb, would love to get him, right? I mean, that's more of an in-state guy, but you need to start winning some of these battles. And you start winning more of those types of battles than you're losing, and then I think you'll start consistently being in the top 10 and pushing for top 5. So, we'll see what happens. Still relatively early, but now in the summertime, it's, the hay needs to be in the barn, so to speak, the majority of it, before you start your season. And I think the next couple weeks to month is going to play a massive role in that. So I would say, Ben, still a little bit early to tell. Let's come back in 3 weeks and see where Tennessee is. What commits has Tennessee gotten in the next 3 weeks? Let's reevaluate for sure. Let's go to Jared. Speaking of Tristan Keys, is it wishful thinking to think we'll land Tristan Keys? He obviously wants to be a first-round pick, which is something Heupel staff has never done. Keys mentioned LSU as great developers of Jefferson and Chase, yet Kelly's staff didn't develop them. What else is Heupel supposed to say? Well, Malik Neighbors. He coached Malik Neighbors, right? And so that's one. You can look at some other guys that he's coached as well. But yeah, I mean, to your point, LSU's turned out tons of great receivers for sure over the regimes, not just the current regime. So, it's up to that individual player, right? You got to do your homework. And I'm sure Tristan Keys has. I think Tennessee has done about as much as you can there. And with Savion Hyder. They've been on campus so many different times. They've got competitive packages to go play ball with. They're going to have every opportunity to come in and play early. Both of those skill sets kind of adapt to this offense. I think Kelsey Pope's done a phenomenal job with this recruitment. I think Darrell Sims done a great job of Savion Hyder. So, we'll see what happens. Sometimes you do all you can do, and then you kind of just see where the chips fall. And it doesn't matter where Keys. Keys might take this on into the fall, right? But regardless of where Hyder or Keys land or commit to, Tennessee ain't going away, win or lose, right? If it's Tennessee, great. You're going to have to work to keep him. If it's not Tennessee, they're not going away. They're going to continue to push all the way up into signing day. So we'll see what happens. But I think opportunity. In this offense. I think having a great quarterback and Faison Brandon, I think that's appealing. I think that there's a lot of opportunity here in this offense to go out and ball out. And so for a wide receiver, that should be very appealing. Let's go to Roba22. Got a couple of questions here. Let's see. Number one, what did you think about the ejection of the Coastal Carolina coaches yesterday? Seemed like extremely quick trigger to me. I thought it was embarrassing. I thought it was so embarrassing. And again, I'll continue to say umpires, officials, thankless job. Nobody's perfect. I don't want their job. Okay, we get that out of the way. I know a couple of officials that have officiated for years in the SEC and the ACC. Great people, great resources for me. But I will say in this instance, how about Jeff Head wasn't even on the crew yesterday, and all of college baseball rejoiced, right? Like, thank goodness Jeff Head is not on this crew to decide for potentially a national title-winning game. Yet, the crew itself was still an embarrassment. It's the first inning, okay? And sure, Coastal Carolina's coach is chirping balls and strikes or whatever, and that's kind of a no-no. But my biggest thing about this whole thing is apparently he was warned, but he wasn't aware. If you're going to warn somebody, you make it abundantly clear. I've watched enough baseball on TV and covered enough baseball in person. The umpire goes out there and points, makes a note. If you're doing both dugouts or whatever, you point here, make a note, you point here, make a note, you call up to the press box. It is abundantly clear what's going on. So if the Coastal Carolina coach was already warned and wasn't aware of it, that's an issue. And again, that's on the umpire. But besides all of that, it's the first inning of a College World Series potentially deciding game. Season is on the line for Coastal. And that clown show of an umpiring crew ran the Coastal coach in the first inning. It's absolutely pathetic. And I love how he handled the other umpire that kind of ran in there and pretty aggressively and tripped over the other umpire's foot. He said, I didn't make contact. He made contact with me, essentially. That should not be 2 games. I shouldn't be faulted for someone's lack of athletic ability. It's a grown man. Thought it was hilarious. But the whole thing, embarrassing. Thin skin, power hungry, just embarrassing. It's atrocious. And I hate that for that team. Now, Was Coastal going to win that game if they didn't get tossed? Who's to say? LSU's good. LSU was the better team, obviously. They won in 2 games, but it was just gross. It was gross for sure. Number 2, tell us about the 2 baseball commitments over the weekend. What do they bring, and will Ford even make it to campus? He goes on to say, skip number 2, you covered it on yesterday's show. However, did the Bowling Green kid, DJ Newman, not play in Lindsey Nelson Stadium this year during that series? I was at 2 of those games and do not remember him. It was not this year. It was 2024. And yes, he did. He was a starting pitcher, I want to say, for the Saturday game. So game 2 of that series, because I think he went opposite of Drew Beam. Maybe it was Friday, but nonetheless, he did play last year when Bowling Green was here at Tennessee for sure. It just wasn't this season. Number 3, which incoming baseball freshman do you think will have an impact on next year's team? Yeah, good question. If Drew Schoolcraft makes it, and there feels like there's better feelings about it now than there was a couple weeks ago, still a long shot in my opinion. I mean, that guy's going to be potentially a top 40 pick, right? Then it's absolutely him. Left-handed bat, 2-way prospect, left-handed pitching. Cameron Appenzeller as well, another left-handed pitcher. More optimism now about those guys getting to campus, but those 2 guys is where I would start off. I don't think Steele Hall makes it. Billy Carlson's not making it. I think Ethan Moore wants to sign. I think Trent Grindlinger, the catcher, I think he's going to make it to campus as of right now. Potentially can he carve out a role, catching next year. But there's a lot. I mean, that class is loaded. But if they make it to campus, absolutely. Schoolcraft, Appenzeller, and then I'd probably say Trent Grindlinger, the catcher. Appreciate you as always, Roba. Let's see here. Couple more here. The 1796. Who is your pick for an under-the-radar guy that could end up having a big season for Tennessee? Braylon Staley. Is that under the radar? He played a little bit at the end of last year. I get all that. We're talking a lot about Braylon Staley. Again, we talked about the production in the slot. I'm so ready for football season to be in here because we have dove down to so many topics and so many topics and so many topics. And I continue to say, we talked about this. We talked about this. The slot position was not very productive with Squirrel White this year, but every other year has been very productive. Braylon Staley, I think, is going to step in and have a big year if he stays healthy. Which current UT football player is the fastest, strongest, has the biggest mean streak, has the best football IQ? Good question, man. Fastest, that's a really good question. I'll say Peyton Lewis is the fastest. Strongest, Elijah Simmons is no longer on the team. He was the strongest. Strongest, I'll go maybe Jackson Moy, potentially. Biggest mean streak, probably, Cooper Mays is gone. John Campbell and John Campbell and Javonte Spraggins are gone. Mean streak, I don't know. I got to see him out there. I mean, there's so many new pieces, right? I think Bryson Easton's got a mean streak for sure. I think Boo Carter probably got the. Boo Carter's got a mean streak, so probably Boo Carter. Highest football IQ, that's a great question. I'm not sure yet. I think Jermont McCoy's got an incredible football IQ just on some of the plays he made last year. I think Wendell Moy on the offensive line's a guy that's experienced, and so I would kind of put him in that category. But some good questions. Might not have the answers to those yet because there's so many newcomers. One more question here. This is from Darius. He sent this in last week. I know I'm late to X Tuesday, but with Nico leaving and media day coming up, who do you take now? Can't take a quarterback without implying that your starter. Would you go with Mike Matthews, being that he should be wide receiver number 1? Man, another really, really good question. I don't think a quarterback's going to go. I think, Miles Kitselman probably goes. Miles Kitselman, Arion Carter, and probably give me a defensive lineman, Bryson Eason. I think so. At the end of the spring game, after Josh Heupel spoke about the spring game, addressed the Nico Iamaleava situation, they brought us out players who performed well in the spring game, and then they brought us out Miles Kitselman and Arion Carter, 2 guys who did not play in the spring game, but to obviously field questions on the whole Nico saga. I mean, that screams team leaders, right? So I think for sure Miles Kitselman's 1, Arion Carter's 2, and then probably a defensive lineman, probably Jackson Moy, I think, could be potentially one of those guys, but probably Bryson Easton is who I'd go with in those scenarios. All right. Went a couple of minutes overboard. Hope you don't mind about that. Appreciate you guys, as always, for making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Hope to have Josh Ward on for a little Ward Wednesday. We'll continue to look at Tennessee and the baseball transfer portal and continue the conversation leading up to fall camp just a couple weeks away. All that and more coming up on a Wednesday, Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys, as always, for listening. This is Locked On Vols.